Hello everyone, welcoming you to Saurabh Sir's classes, and today we are looking at the ISI MSQE 2023 PA paper question number 15. To test the prediction of the Solow growth model, you run the following linear regression for all countries in the world. Gi is equals to alpha plus beta naught log yi plus beta 1 log ni plus beta 2 log si plus gamma xi. Gi is the growth rate per capita real GDP of the country I over a period. Yi naught is the per capita real GDP of the country I at the beginning of the period under consideration. Ni is the population growth rate of the country I, Si is the savings rate in the country, and Xi denotes the set of all other control variables, and epsilon I is the error term. The Solow growth model predicts that the expected sign of the regression coefficient beta naught is what? Positive, negative, 0 or inconclusive. Okay, so let me just formulate these expressions in the idea that we have already read the Solow model. Okay, so if you remember, the basic structure of the Solow model is that we basically express our production function in per capita form, where we basically plot small y as capital Y by L and small k as capital K by L, and we have a standard concave production function y equals to f of k, right? Where the initial point is basically, and to find out the steady state, we basically take the point. So this is my nk line. The savings function is considered to be a proportion of the production function. So this is my s times y, and this is where we get our steady state, which is k star. And if you push that up to the production function, you basically get your y star, the steady state level of per capita output. Okay, so over here we generally define the rate of growth of per capita GDP as small y dot by y, right? Which is change in small y over time with respect to the initial amount of y. All right. If you look at yi naught, it is basically referring to the per capita GDP at the beginning of the period under consideration. So over here, this is basically my y naught. This need not necessarily be 0. Okay. Si is the savings rate over here, and xi, so savings rate is s that we have considered over here, and epsilon I is the error term. All right. So if we look at the regression model, the first thing is that the coefficients are basically representing partial effects, right? That is del gi by del log yi naught is equals to beta naught, right? That is the interpretation. That is change in gi due to change in log yi naught, isn't it? Okay. So since we are starting from the initial value y naught, that is what with respect to which we are checking the growth, and we are actually trying to reach the steady state over here in this part completely. Y dot by y is positive, right? Correct. And so that is basically g is positive over here. All right, if you compare the diagram and the logic that we are trying to evaluate the change in g due to change in log yi. Okay. And from the figure, we can see that when we are talking of reaching the steady state from the initial value y naught, it is basically a phase where your y dot by y should be positive because we have to reach the steady state. Okay. Now, given that the production function is concave, the rate of growth will basically fall. Correct? So del G is basically change in growth, right? That is what we are trying to estimate. So change in growth, correct? Or the change in the amount of growth. So given the concave production function, y dot by y is positive, but the rate at which this is changing, it should be negative. If in the initial periods you will have higher rates of growth and it will gradually go on falling in the consecutive periods. So that means that the expected sign of beta naught should be negative, because change in growth due to change in the initial amount is what is given by the concave nature of the production function. So this gives you your correct option as option A. Okay, thank you everyone.